Great. Thank you so much for joining. And I've always said that this is my favorite conference, and I go to a lot of conferences. I must say that I think I go to at least 3 or 4 every month, but I wait for this one, and I'm here for the last time. I've been here the whole of yesterday and today because this gives the opportunity to talk about things that haven't worked, failures as we call them. Rules are Chatham House, which means whatever we say here can't be used against us in the court of law, any of us. So we are going to say a lot of things, and they don't go back anywhere. This is for your digestion only. You know, when this whole conversation on climate and health intersection started, the feeling I got was that the people who work in the health sector like me suddenly realized that maybe we can get some climate funding into health. Why not? Let's try this out. So this was a few years ago. And we all started chasing that fund, right? Started chasing that money and saying, let's bring it to climate and health. But I think as time has passed, it seems there is some merit because health kind of gives a human face to climate. Typically, the climate conversations are about mitigation, about reducing greenhouse gases, etc. But you suddenly have a human face, a mother, a child, a family, etc. And that kind of does resonate well with most of the global policymakers as well as those who are actually funding some of the work that's happening. The problem with us in the development sector is that I feel that our narrative is always different from the actual. I don't know, any of you on LinkedIn? Let's see some hands. Yeah, any of you follow me? Yeah, quite a few. You might have seen how much trash I push out there. And it's all positive, right? Have you ever seen me saying that I didn't do well on something? Never, right? So that's what we do. And that's not okay. And that is why we're here, to try and try and talk about what is going right and what's not going right. I think, we start convincing ourselves about a narrative. We start building that narrative around it. And after a point, we probably also start believing in our narrative. So it's a very good thing to come here and really go back and think about what you are actually doing and what is actually working and what is not. And trust me, we know what's not working. We all know that. So my team actually gave me these 2 pages of stuff on climate and health, and I'm not going to run through them because I think this is a group which knows about technology, health, climate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump straight in and talk to all these wonderful people here because they have some great thoughts, and I'm going to have follow-up questions. Request you to keep the answers short. By the way, I've also been told that tea break needs to finish at 5. So 15, 20 minutes you get on tea break, that should be good. So we'll finish a little early by 4:40. You can go for tea, coffee, and then head to the plenary again. Okay, great. Tasleem, let's start with you. We failed, right? You and I have failed, right? We decided about a year and a half ago, we had this big bang, digital, we will partner, etc. So I don't think we've had lots of conversations, but not done very much about it. Plus, you do a lot of work in that intersection space. I want you to tell me what hasn't worked in our program that we developed, and also additionally, what are the main sort of areas of concern as you incubate, as you come up with new ideas, as you meet innovators? Where do you think we are failing? And we are failing big time. Most of those innovations I see only in your workshop. I've not seen them out there. So tell me what's not working.
Yeah, no, thanks. But by the way, it's not fair. He has not mentioned anything before this meeting. Even he didn't even say hi on that we are going to have a panel, and I'm going to say that. So this is, but he came with a lot of papers. That's not fair, nonetheless. But yes, so I think let me begin and try to be as precise as possible in terms of time. So we with Path, CCAM decided that we will join hands and build capability in terms of care continuum through digital health capabilities that we both had, and there was a significant complementarity which was on the table, where CCAM could bring in some fantastic innovation solutions which in a way have gotten to the field level, and we are seeing good results which were giving us confidence that no, yes, we can do that. And we were looking for partners who are at the same time had the ability to take them to the ground, something that he right mentioned, and that was a perfect complementarity, not only in India but beyond. And I think Path had that capability of testing them on the ground and scaling them up. So we thought that this is the right thing. We like each other as an organization. There is a good repo, and we said let's do it. I think the failure, possibly in hindsight, we are still on it, and I don't think this is going to be.
Oh, you haven't given up yet?
I have not given up.
Fantastic.
For sure.
That sounds good.
No, that's the promise. Not at all. Not at all. I'm very, very optimistic on that as well. So I'm going to nag you on that. But coming back, I think one of the largest thing we went into it. I think we went into it with a little bit less preparation. I think we didn't have a. I think we went in believing that we will be able to pull it off, but I think possibly we didn't have the complete plan chalked out. The idea was right, the pieces of the puzzles were right, but we didn't sequence the piece. We didn't actually put the plan out. We believed that we could do it after that, and I think we haven't been able to get to that to do it. And in a way, I believe that's where we have to get it back in shape and get that right.
We also got very busy with our own stuff, right? You started doing your things.
Yes, so that was a part of it that we couldn't get back on it, and something I think we would like to. So that is definitely a failure in terms of lost opportunity.
Sure.
While not to give up, but still definitely a lost opportunity in terms of time, what we could do, because individually these innovations are still making us amazing data on the NHM website. But how we can actually put a complete continuum will be a great way to put it up. So that's there. I'm happy to stop here or talk about.
No. Tell me about innovations which are failing. Why is everything in your workshop? Why am I not seeing it on the field?
Correct. So that's what. So the collaboration with Path and otherwise was actually to get them on the field, and that is something we have started.
No, I mean beyond the digital.
Beyond the digital, as well. So I think this is where we have. Of course, I don't want to. So one of the things over the years that we realize in medtech, CCAM largely began with an organization which will continue to promote solutions, believing in them, supporting them, get them there. And we all thought that yes, after they are approved, they should find their own market. We have put a diamond right there in the middle of the market, and people will come and loot that diamond away and get leveraged by that. Did nothing like that happen. The diamond had to find its home, and that pathway was something that we were not on top of. Honestly speaking, how does a regulatory approved product, and we are talking about medtech today, actually has to get into the system, be it in a public health system or a private system? That pathway was not known to us, and that is something we are correcting now in collaboration as well as independently while working with the state governments. We are beginning to deploy them now through the state government programs and able to address it. But that was where we all really realized that we were, for many years, early years, we were in thought process that you have given something like a magical silver bullet to the world and world will take it. But no, that's not the truth. So the realization happened. And
so bad planning.
You could possibly say that it was not in the mandate in a way.
Yeah.
But what if you say that impact was our mandate? Yes. Right?
I think impact is all our mandates.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a very important thing. Yeah. So it has become, and that's why I said that yes, so we are not achieving impact.
Sure.
But impact, if it was to bring best solutions to the regulatory, that could have been impact. But we are now more ambitious. Impact is actually final solution, meeting the target. That is saving life, touching lives, solving agri problems and other things.
Give me one example of something that you really believed would be a rock star and didn't work out, and what was the learning or what is the reason for that?
So a few I can say, but I
and I want names. This is Chatham House. Nobody's going to say anything outside.
No, happy to do that. I think no, but I think it's a story needs to be discussed, right? So it is still in the making. So I don't think again that is a dead end, but it's a struggling story. One of the best science that we have supported, which is absolutely world recognized now, is a company called Bugworks, which is not in medtech but in broadly therapeutics. One of the best science going on in the world to develop a broad spectrum antibiotic, which was last discovered in 1962. So we are here trying to be as crazy as the group, the Bugworks group, trying to figure out that from Bangalore to build it. And they have done a fantastic work, but now they are 10 years in it. The reason they are not actually gone forward is not because of their science. It's a market dynamics where Right now, the pharma industry doesn't want to put money into infectious disease because it takes 5 years course for you to treat with for a pathogen. But if it is a cancer, if it is a diabetes, if it's a blood pressure, if it is something else, it's going to take lifetime,
Sure.
right? So the pharma industry is absolutely not there to actually. So there is nobody actually taking risk, and we haven't been able to engage with government in let's say possibly they have been able to raise largest amount of money from outside, including the U.S. government, including GARP,
US government is gone now. Almost.
it was still a BARDA program
Okay, good.
which will survive,
Okay.
hopefully, because it is in their own interest. But coming back, so this, according to me, is a major, again, I would say, setback in terms of putting one of the biggest science story from India to the world, something they haven't discovered in 60 years. If we put it out,
Sure.
and that is something that is kind of hurting that we have not been able to solve the market pull uh, puzzle for now, and that is, of course, there are many more.
Sure.
But I think as you needed one example, I thought this is definitely one which you,
Yeah,
if
I
it
have.
had worked, would have been great.
I've been following that too. So it's a like you said, broad spectrum antibiotic, and there are not too many people in the world who are actually doing this work.
Yeah,
So yeah, the day we find out that there's a need,
yeah,
there'll probably be lines outside the shop.
that's what I think. When
We
I think people are dying every hospital,
But
every
for
day.
now,
Yeah, but it's still
not there. I'm going to jump straight to you, Manoj, because I know that you have been doing some very interesting work. I see it up close, and I really think that I would really like to know what is the reason why we don't see these medtech, so many medtech products. Why do we see them fall off the wayside? I know you're funding some, CCAM funds some, IKP funds. There are so many sources of funding. BIRAC starts with it, but we're not seeing them in the field. Where do you think you're going wrong? Where is the failure? And I'm not talking about market failure. I'm talking
No,
about
I'll tell you about my failure because we don't talk about failure because we are apprehensive about our image and reputation and all that. All these people, including me, who think that they are trying to solve the problem, actually don't know how to solve the problem. We are just doing trial and error, right? A lot of people, like, let's talk. I was actually talking about innovation as a whole, but let's talk only about medtech. How many people have actually shipped medtech innovation who are telling startup how to ship the medtech innovation?
zero.
Right? It's a journey that different people have come from different background and they're trying to experiment with their ideas. Where I have failed miserably is that when I came from outside, from a private equity venture capital, funding world, I thought the problem is money. So we started providing funds to startups. And then we realized that a lot of these startups actually need money, no doubt about it. But they need different type of money in their different stages, right? Depending upon the complexity of problem they are solving and depending upon what stage they are. Every startup is different. You cannot have a one size fits all where you give 10 lakh rupee grant to every startup and expect them to go to market. So our funding programs are designed in a wrong way. You have to first understand what problem your innovation is actually targeting to solve and work backwards and create that innovation specific program for every startup in your portfolio, right from lab to market to deployment to scale up. And it's not replicable. It's not that your one device worked, then other device will also work with that model. It took me 3 years to understand that what I'm doing is wrong after burning a lot of cash. What needs to be done is to be very selective. You can't run a cohort of and take pride in that, saying that I have 100 startups in my portfolio and they are doing amazing.
How many do you have now?
I have 350.
So there you go. Sorry, I had to ask that question.
I have, right? So you have to selectively pick the winners and then be with them in that entire journey if you are building the ecosystem for that. So this whole approach that as a country we have decided that we'll build 1,000 incubators and then we'll build fund of fund, then we'll invest in funds and we'll give them money. This is doesn't. You have to pick, if you are working on medical technologies, identify 2 or 3 areas where you have the expertise. You have a team of biomedical engineers, clinicians, biotechnologists, clinical experts. You have a network of hospitals and doctors who are willing to get involved very early in identification of problem, and then at some point of time doing pilots and tests and everything. And even if you have done everything, if your customer is public health system, you have a problem of procurement and deployment and everything else, right? So these are tough problems, right? We come with a very simple approach. The way I invested in Paytm and Zomato, I can also invest in a medical device, right? And it doesn't work like that, right? So you want to get into more detail? I'm happy to
No, I'll
because
come back
I have
to you.
more failures.
I want more of your failures, but maybe we'll do a round and come back. But I want to
But the
also,
way we are approaching is wrong.
it's completely wrong.
Completely wrong.
So in fact, that was...
I've yet to find a player in this medical devices ecosystem who is doing it right.
So you said from lab to scale to impact. Why is it not the other way around, from impact to scale to lab?
It is.
Because
It is.
I find
You
that
have to start with what problem you're solving.
that's the impact.
Whose problem is this? And who is going to pay you if you actually solve the problem? Is it government? Is it private sector? Is it philanthropy? Because if you don't have a customer who is going to, end user may not be the customer in many cases.
And philanthropic payments don't necessarily
Philanthropy is
count, no?
this much. And philanthropy has an agenda. Philanthropy itself has failed. Right? They are more into building hospitals and capex
Sure.
rather than doing innovation. Not a single philanthropy in India invests in innovation at early stage.
I
It's
must
only
tell you,
government of India that invests in innovation.
Sure.
But government of India invests in a very socialistic manner because they have 1,000 incubators, so everybody has to get the same money under same scheme. Then they have to distribute this money under some government guideline.
Sure.
So a startup who has been promised money that in May I will give you 15 lakh will not get it for a year. And who is accountable? Because nobody has skin in the game.
Sure.
Right?
And
Most players in this space do not have skin in the game. They are just redistributing grants.
Just going back to Manoj, to Social Alpha and Path, when I think you had just started, I had just joined Path, and we got into a partnership, and we set up something called the Impact Lab, right? Wasn't a very successful model for many years. I think we ran through it for many years. Wasn't a very successful model. Yeah. We didn't really part ways, but we didn't really do much about it.
Yeah,
also.
it didn't work.
What didn't work? I mean, I have my own opinion, but let's hear 2 or 3 from you, then I'll give you 2 or 3 from mine.
No, so we thought that we will build a lab infrastructure where people will come and do some stuff in
IIT Delhi.
IIT Delhi. We got some place that nobody wanted to use in IIT, right?
Yeah, that was
that one corner of
dead
IIT.
space they gave us.
Yeah, they gave us and they did the photo session. We did a press release with director. Everything happened. But what didn't happen, none of those startups actually got injected into the health system.
Well, maybe also the
Those
way
who manage a lot of credit we take for startup success is actually their work. We just put it on our website and say, oh, my startup has done great and all that. Actually, startups can do it without us if they had access to capital.
So, innovators, beware of all these 3 people, Manoj, Tasleem and me. We failed multiple times in multiple ways. So, let's go to the innovator now. Let's go to Remidio. So tell me, you've got a story to tell. So tell us about your journey, what's happening, what's working. No, forget about what's working. What's not working? Where do you think you're failing in terms of your journey? And tell us about your product a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure people in the audience may not know.
So Remidio as a company started off in the space of eye care. So we work on innovations around making bulky ophthalmic devices into portable devices. And now we've also introduced AI algorithms for diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, and AMD. So the journey started for Anand, the founder, primarily when he met one of the pediatric ophthalmologists on a train. So he was discussing about what could a technologist do in the space of public health, and access to advanced ophthalmic devices tends to be a problem even now. Like, I mean, most of it, you have the Zeisses, the optomeds and others who are extremely expensive foreign made devices that are, you know, the price starts at like a 50 lakh or I mean, Dr. Nandakumar.
So you wanted a low cost,
affordability was
pediatric.
one. I mean, pediatric, yes, but ophthalmology in general, right?
Okay.
So the innovation then came in the form of making it portable, energy independent, and making it completely simple that even like a frontline worker can use it. Now,
Just 1 second. We are struggling with medtech. There's an easy way to do it, Dr. Nandakumar. You just hit it hard on the ground and see what happens. Yeah, it always works. Yeah, don't worry. This is a failures conference. Wonderful, no? Okay, great. So we did succeed finally. So eventually, Tasleem, Manoj, we will succeed. Okay. So, go for it. Sorry, we paused you there.
So the technology is developed. We have the FDA approvals. We have CE/CD SCO approval. Now, when it comes to scale, so we're working with Government of Kerala, and that's initially like we got funding to do this from NHS as a pilot study. Now, when it comes to government procuring, we've had like multiple challenges, as you would like when you're working with the public health system. So one being the devices not being used, the current devices that are already in the system are not being used. The second is integration with their existing e-health platform. So government tends to have a extremely data preserving position. So they don't understand like technologies like AI. It's seen as, you know, a suspect, and you're seen as, you know, threatening data privacy. And then the third component is around acceptance by certain healthcare providers within the system. So these three are still continue to be like major challenges for us. And the way that we have sort of tackled it is now we're moved away from being like a technologist to actually getting into governance. So we're actually working with the government like as technical partners. We've sort of, you know, like working with ophthalmologists there, we're sensitizing them on the technology. So you kind of have to build technology, you have to provide that technology, you have to work with them on implementation. Only then, you know, and this requires a lot of years, a lot of patience, a lot of back and forth. But not a lot of, you know, companies have the time or the patience or the money to be able to do this. And that's where we feel that we could only get into this problem after 15 years. Like Remidio started 15 years ago, and only now are we able to engage with the public health system. Until then, you have to sustain. So you can't deal with these problems. So then very consciously, you're just going to people who can pay for it. That means you're going to go to the doctors, ophthalmologists in tier 1 cities and metro. So we are also introducing healthcare inequity, if I think about it, right? We are introducing
You're aggravating inequity.
I mean, yeah, by virtue of, because we
job.
are capital, you know, like our capital is restrained, unlike, you know, government. So I think it is a problem of like the environment that we are in, but also, I guess it's about our own skill and our own ability to engage with governments more, you know, effectively.
So, you know, one of the things that at least we've noticed in terms of medtech innovators failing is that they design based on their product, but they actually do not even think about the health system when they're designing. So by design, they are sort of designed to fail in that sense. I don't know if you felt that. Because the public health system is your biggest customer. So yeah, if you spend 15 years, you know, that's fine, because the day it hits, you're going to become very rich.
Yeah.
And some of them have become unicorns. I'm sure you know of Tunat.
Yes.
You know of Cure AI.
Yes.
Yeah, these are unicorns now. So the ones which have gotten scaled up with the governments, they become unicorn. But it's a tough journey.
Yes.
So did you design for public health?
Yes and
Or
no.
are you doing it now as a retrofit?
So the engineering part of it is the easiest part, like, you know, figuring out like how to design, for the end user.
Engineering is a bullet, no? Silver bullet he just talked about. That you'll do.
Correct.
What about the system, the health system?
Yeah, and that's where I think we were unprepared. Very honestly, very unprepared. So Kerala also, we've been there like 7 years now. Only now are we getting into a stage where we're in the triple digits. So I think like a lot of technologists are not really ready to work with government systems because it's very difficult. You're not trained to do that. You don't really think about procurement. You don't think about all the dynamics, the politics of it. You would rather go into a private sector where things are simple. It's capital based. So while the intent was there, the intent around impact was there, but I think it also took a while to understand, the nuances of working with the government
And again,
system.
data privacy, I mean, nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
So you've got to set up those layers
Yeah.
right from when you start, right?
Correct. But I think it's also communicating that in a language that's simple for the government to understand. You can't have like a MIT grad talking like jargon to someone in the e-health team with the government system, and that's happened to us. Like that continues to happen to us.
So it's a very interesting thing, I've had innovators I've talked to and they said, yeah, I've had a great product. I went to Bairak, they gave me some money and then I continued for 2 years and we developed it. Then I went to CCAMP, he gave me some more money. I'm just giving hypothetical examples. He gave me more money and we continued for another 2-3 years. Then I went to Social Alpha, then I went to IKP and then I went to Gates Foundation. They kept giving us money. And then he said, he came and met us and we said, public health system, you can't sell your product. He said, I've spent 6 years doing this, with grant money. And now you're telling me there is no market in the public health system for this product. So that's another sort of situation that we've seen. I'll move to Dr. Nandakumar. Dr. Nandakumar, you've had some very interesting work that you've been doing especially for the tribal populations, like you said, climate vulnerable populations. And you also run a hospital, I believe. So tell us a time when you failed and you felt, we heard yesterday Dr. Kannan. And he had some really interesting thoughts around it. So I'm sure were you there for that session? Okay, so that was a wonderful session. If you get a recording, you should see that. But he had some very interesting insights on his hospital and how he was operating. But tell us your sort of thoughts around where you possibly felt that you failed and you could have done much better, or you could have turned the clock.
Yeah, to this I need to go back a little bit. So when we started the work in 1990 with these disadvantaged tribals in Budulu, which is bordering Mudumalai forest, many of you must have visited that. So we're in a forested area. So at that time, this population of about 20,000 people were not accessing healthcare at all. Immunization was zero, visiting hospitals was zero. So, and our problems were mostly people dying from preventable diseases. So the first 20 years that we worked, it was tremendous change because we had our basic working hypothesis was to use the tribals themselves to deliver care. So almost 3/4 of our staff are from the tribal community. And we wanted the organization to be owned and run by the tribals. So a lot of the work involved in training them.
Can you pull the mic a little closer, because I think we are missing on the sound. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
So we wanted. So we wanted the tribals to actually own the whole thing. So it's a different way of approaching the problem. So in 20 years, there was tremendous change. We have now almost 96% of our mothers are delivering in hospital. We have no eclampsia, which is convulsions during pregnancy. So tremendous change. Malnutrition was coming down remarkably. Then maybe about 5 or 7, maybe about 10 years ago, we started seeing a change in all these things. Malnutrition started going up. Our suicidal rates are astronomical. India, as it is, has a very high suicide rate. I don't know if you're aware. It's not something that we are proud of, but we are somewhere around, I think, 30th or 40th in the world in suicides. And our population has 7 times the suicide rate of the general population. A massive, so we are almost number 1 in the world in suicides. And all the suicides are among young Paniyas, that's one of the tribal groups. And all of them are under the age of 30. Young men under the age of 30, all of this group who commit suicide. And these numbers have been increasing. Mental health issues have become a huge issue. So the question is, we've been doing all this work, things have been going so well. what did we miss in having our parameters change, which is quite shocking. So when we started looking at this, we felt that there was some underlying pathology for all these different things to pop up: malnutrition, suicides. What is the underlying thing? Mental health. So there had to be something which the community was losing, was made not able to access, and as a result of that void, or being helpless or apathetic, some kind of hopelessness, purposelessness. Some of these ideas which actually you find in indigenous populations across the world. And as in other populations, our population also has a tremendous problem with alcohol. So when we look back, we found that alcohol started making its appearance in this population, and the men started drinking. Now, we all know that tribals have alcohol as a part of their life. That's a normal thing. But what they used to drink was beer. It was basically 5 to 6% alcohol. And now they moved to brandy, which is 40% alcohol. But they drink it in the same way. You just take it and gulp a glass down, and the effects are totally, it's a different ball game. As a result of which, a lot of the people have slowly succumbed to this. And as a result of this, the amount of investment in their family is decreased. The children were at one time the center of the family, but now they're not the center stage. So things have deteriorated. Now, that's a failure. If you look at our organization, it's a failure that after so many years of work, our malnutrition numbers are increasing, that suicides are sky high. Now, the question is, do we engage? Of course, we have to engage with the adults, but we're finding that alcohol de-addiction is an extremely difficult proposition. People get admitted to the hospital for de-addiction, but they go back to the same toxic environment and they're back again into alcohol. It's very difficult. So now in the last 5 years, we've been focusing more on the children to see how we can build resilience. The huge problem is that they are in toxic environments. Their homes are quite toxic. And we have first time children are going to school the first time from a tribal environment to a government school where no special efforts are taken to help you along. It's a huge problem. So this is the kind of challenge that we find that we're facing right now. But when you look at the future, we need to find solutions to get our kids more resilient so that they can say no to alcohol and to drug abuse, and to find mechanisms by which we can keep them in school to decrease the dropout rates and provide them some meaningful employment so that they regain some of the glory that they had in the forest. As you can realize, the forest in Nilgiris is extremely giving. It's one of the most lush places if you've been. I mean, you live like a king. As a matter of fact, one of our tribal groups is called Kartonaikan, which means the king of the forest. To come from being the king of the forest to the bottom of the economic ladder as a daily wage coolie on a tea estate is a tremendous blow at your self-esteem.
Thank you. That's yeah. I mean, so that's basically means you are moving away from medicine into social issues in order to actually support that community, and that's also what we heard a little bit of yesterday as we were chatting.
Actually, one of the great pathologists, I forget his name, actually said medicine is only sociology applied.
Fantastic. We'll stay with that. Sunil, wonderful to have you here. I must admit that the first time I heard of ECHO, does any of you know ECHO? Yeah, a few people do. First time I heard of ECHO, and somebody in my team told me this is what they do. I said, Zoom call karte hain? No, that's not what they do. Zoom is just a medium of getting across. And, they told me all about your program. And, of course, I've seen it firsthand now. Very, very impressive stuff. So maybe you could, since the audience doesn't know much about ECHO, maybe a little bit of an introduction. And then talk about what hasn't worked for you.
Thanks for that question about what doesn't work, but I'll come to that later. I'm the mascot of failure, right? I promise you. Well, I tell you that. Anyway, Project ECHO is a telementoring platform to build capacity.
You can switch it off.
Right?
No, that one. Can you switch it off?
Get healthcare into the underserved area. It started with healthcare because the founders are doctors. Then he comes to India, he meets doctors, and we take it up. But today, around the world, it is used in education, livelihood, agriculture, right? Policing, justice, etc., etc. It is so global today that we have learners in 195 countries and many other states and territories and areas. So that's what ECHO does. And today in India, the entire healthcare programs run on the ECHO platform, right?
The government programs.
The government programs, all of them. All the
Which is-
20, 30.
So here you've got somebody who works with the government very
So,
closely.
we are everywhere. I mean, and COVID, for example, we played a huge role. The WHO used us worldwide for vaccines, the Gavi, right? And in India, all that was there. But here is a lesson. Like I said, I'm the mascot of failure. If I told you I was by education a doctor, by heart an entrepreneur. You know, there's a little story. There was a dog playing a piano one day in a circus and making the circus owner loads of money. And he made a loads of money and was so happy that one day a big dog came, picked up the little dog and took him away. The circus owner got so angry and said, "What the hell's wrong with you? Who are you to take this dog away?" He said, "I'm his father. I'm taking him to be a doctor." So I became a doctor instead of being an entrepreneur, right? But as an entrepreneur, after 16 years of studying medicine, I have 2 postgraduate degrees in medicine and anesthesia, both. And I came home to India to put up a business. I won't go deep into all the misery. After 3 years, I had failed so miserably that forget being bankrupt. I'm not joking. My maid was paying for my grocery in the morning. And then, "Dr. Saab, when are you going to wake up?" I thought I'd hit rock bottom till a friend of mine rang me up and said, "Hey, Sunil, I'm throwing a party at a 5-star hotel. Can you come?" I couldn't go. I didn't have the taxi fare. So I lied to him. But when he found out, he said, "Boy, did you think of suicide?" I said, "Shit, I didn't have the time. I didn't think about it." And from there till, this is mid-90s, till 2009. And my father used to keep ringing me up and saying, "Sunil, are you okay for money?" The pride always said, "Oh yeah, I'm all right." I didn't tell him maid was feeding me. To 2009, I rang up my father and said, "Dad, I am 8 times richer than the most powerful political lady in the country." Say, "Shut up. How can you be so rich?" See, for foreigners here, the people who stand for elections have to declare their income. The income that most powerful lady had declared, I had 8 times more than that. So that just shows that
We need to know the name, Sunil.
it's been recorded.
Huh?
All right,
Yeah.
Mrs. Sonia Gandhi.
There you go.
Right? So that's how it really did. And I put my head down and I slogged and I slogged and I slogged till it actually succeeded. So that's what I said. The entrepreneur in me, my definition of an entrepreneur is not afraid of failure, but determined to succeed. Right? So if you put a heart out, and I'm sure all of us, this is only one of the failures. There are loads and loads and loads of failures. I'll end with giving an example of the social sector where failure came in. And what I did about it was when COVID hit, as I said, the government used us. I mean, extensively, let me know. We trained something like 700,000 healthcare workers, right? In India alone. And then the government came and said, "You got this nice network. Can we use it wisely?" I said, "Of course, I'll up my game." And then came a funder who graciously said, "Sunil, you're doing a fantastic job. If I give you some money, can you do something good?" I said, "Sure." He gave me the money. So I went to an organization, again, I'm naming it, please should not leave the room. It's called Integrated Disease Surveillance Program. Their job is epidemiology to know how diseases are spreading. And I walked up to the head of the thing.
This is the government of India. In
Yeah.
IDSP, it's called, just to sort of clarify, this is the government of India program.
Yeah, government of India.
For the entire country, the disease surveillance happens on this.
And they have 40 branches all over the country. And I said, "Listen, I'm going to give you the money. I'm going to equip you. I'm going to give you the platform. You know, you could just use it." And that time, Step had come out with DIVOC. And, you could do all that. You could get real-time data. And he said, "Sure." So I spent all the money, activated it. After 1 month, I went and said, "What are you doing? All you're doing is video conferencing." He said, "Yeah, we'll get the results in 3 weeks." I said, "In 3 weeks, I'm giving you something for real time. 3 weeks, people are going by trains and walking and all. What the hell are you doing, And they just didn't listen. And that failure in me has hurt so much that I actually went to Sanjay Purohit, you heard today, in the Step Foundation, and I said, "The platform we got, I need to help build it. Literally like an infrastructure." So now today we've added feedback form surveillance, and hopefully by the end of this year, we will be able to give our partners real-time information of what's happening on the ground. So that failure is, of course, I did my best. And that I think the failure in ECHO was, we were bad communicators. I'm good at joke telling, but bad communicator. I couldn't get that IDSP to see What a huge benefit he was having. He was still stuck to, no, my curriculum goes out. He actually told me, we got something like 28 things on our portal, average is about 370 pages. I said, does anybody even read that? But they were stuck, and I would say this taught me a good lesson, that stop being a joker, a comedian, and start being a good communicator. So, thank you.
So that's wonderful. Thanks, Sunil. So now you know why they didn't communicate very well with me. So I thought they're doing Zoom calls. No? So, but thank you, Sunil. And he's doing some fantastic work across government, which has been working. Why don't I just stay with you, Sunil, and go to the second round? We'll do a second round of questions, and then we'll open it up for you in case you have any questions. Sunil, social enterprises, not-for-profits, they've got a role to act as a bridge between innovations and the last mile. What's got to change? What's not working? Why is this not happening?
See, folks, I can only talk of the experience I have.
Just take the mic, please. Sorry, dog, I changed the sequence.
From my experience, there is so much you can do, right? There's so much you can do. But one thing I've realized, unless the community is involved in it, you're going to fail, right? And fortunately, we understood that by mistake, right? Of course, like I said, failure after failure after failure. And then suddenly we hit the sweet spot and we managed, we have huge in government, right? And we realized that if you have technology and take it to the community, you're not going to succeed. You have to own the community and then apply the technology as an enabler to scale. That's how you're really going to do it, right? And that takes time. For the system change, it takes time. You cannot tell me, like CSR, 1 year, what can you do? So I can tell you a few jokes in a year. I can't change the system. I really can't, right? So that's one problem that exists. The other is regulations in the social sector change so fast that it's very difficult to keep up. A lot of our time is spent on just compliance. And I'm saying, and just the example. During COVID, we distributed 5,000 tablets so that nurses and all and ASHA workers could do their job. And when after that I said, all right, why don't you keep them? The auditor said, that's sub-grant, you're not allowed, take them all back. I said, I'm going to have 5,000 tablets lying waste in my office. It hurts the hell out of me. I didn't listen to them, and I will not disclose what I did. And I love my FCR grant, I really do.
As long as it wasn't a failure, you don't need to disclose it. So it was a successful deployment of whatever you did.
Yeah, but I broke the law.
Yeah,
okay.
that's right. Don't tell us.
I don't know what else to do. It just hurts too much. How can you have 5,000 tablets just lying packed after use for 20 sessions? Come on, that's not fair. That's really not fair.
Okay, so Manoj, go back to the beginning of Social Alpha. Look at the startup ecosystem. Now you see it up close and personal. What is going wrong, and how would you have changed the way that you constructed Social Alpha if you were to do it again? Because that will tell us what didn't work.
I built Social Alpha because there was nothing, right? And we had to build a lab to market enabling ecosystem. The issue is that it takes a lot of money, time, and effort to take an innovation from lab to market to deployment. Lot. Partnership
and scale
is all easy to talk. Nothing happens unless you align incentives of everybody who is involved. All collaboration and partnership discussion is fake. It's only in conferences. In real life, you have to align incentives. And incentives of three: the state, the market, and the society. If you are not aligning those incentives, you cannot build those partnerships, because at some point of time, you need to make sure that you are orchestrating the whole ecosystem. I'll give you an example. What I learned 3 years back, like I should have known this in 2016, which I learned only recently, that there is not a single agency in India that funds clinical trials and regulatory approvals of medical devices or innovations. No, there is not a program. We built a program for that. The thing is, how will you go through clinical trials, which is a very complex process, and get regulatory approval before you go and start talking about deployment with a partner like Path, right? But what I learned last year, that even if you have got CDSCO approval, for example, you cannot deploy, you need one more approval. So we have, during COVID, with we have actually supplied some devices which are still kept in the health center, have not been opened and used because there's no certification for these devices to be actually used, right? No. What I'm trying to say that if you do not have your own pool of capital, right, which you can use to de-risk these innovations from lab to market at every stage, and at every stage the de-risking will require you to control the money. So if you are dependent upon 20 different funding partners who are not releasing your money on time, you will not be able to do it. So if your startup is ready for a particular test or a particular pilot, your financial partner is not releasing money to you, you will fail, right? So you have to do these things when you have your own pool of capital where you control it. So you don't have an excuse, oh, I have not received money from so and so, therefore I cannot release. Today what happens in this ecosystem, people promise. On paper there would be a promise that these are 3 milestone linked tranches. I can tell you there are many organizations who do not release those tranches on time. So the startup who has skin in the game, right, the innovator who has skin in the game suffers, and the pilot deployment, everything suffers, but there is no penalty to the institution that is involved in either giving the grant or doing a pass through of the grant, right? So at the end of it, we have created a very asymmetric system where all the loss and downside is for the startup entrepreneur and all the glory and money is for everybody else in the ecosystem. This has to change. Unless we create a symmetry in payoffs, right? My team gets paid only when my startup is successful and their innovation is actually deployed and impact is created. But we don't have that because my team can change the job.
Thanks, Manoj. That's wonderful. Okay, we'll have to go a little fast. I just realized that we are at 4:30. We want to give some time for questions. So very quickly, you were the king of RT-PCR during COVID. You created so much supply. Anybody got an RT-PCR test during COVID? 4,000 rupees, anybody? 4,000 rupees, anybody paid? 2,000? 300? Yeah? This was the guy. You can blame him for it, for bringing the prices down. They just crashed.
I hope he has enough money in his pocket. I want mine back.
The 4,000 wala wo to gaya. But now the question to him is that by doing that, what he has done is he has ruined the RT-PCR market of the country. There is no demand for RT-PCR anymore. There are so many machines out there. Nobody is using RT-PCR anymore. Tasleem, is that a success or a failure?
I'll tell you, I think. So I was just thinking over the last few minutes and also while...
And by the way, this is not in my question.
Yeah, I know. So give me a couple of minutes, Neeraj, if you don't mind. I just think through the day also, and this also, I think first, and I'll come back to the question. Through the day I was listening, I think definitely it's a wonderful, and of course I've been associated with Selco Foundation, it's a wonderful way to look at your failures. But I think for me, I think failures are like how much, if you were ambitious this much, how much you have achieved or how much you have not achieved.
ये बहुत academic answer है
यार. I'm truly. The reason is that I don't want, we can discuss, but I don't want people here in the room to believe that possibly nothing has happened. I'm sorry. I can't let that happen because it would be criminal for so many people's efforts, so many sincere efforts, which has gone to build so many capabilities, including the diagnostics that you talked about, to actually make happen that the 5,000 rupee RT-PCR, which is somebody's monthly salary, is now available in 300 rupees. That is a bloody success.
That is
right. I'm just saying that. And that is something I want to say that this is a lot of people's effort that has gone into it. So I just want the room to know that there's a lot happened. Yeah, now let's take the glass and say half full, half empty. And say, yes, we have failed. But also just want you to believe that there are products in market which has come out of the medtech innovation ecosystem, which are saving lives every day, which are capturing the neonatal sepsis every day, which are preventing the ventilator-associated pneumonia every day, which are doing it. I'm just trying to say that people who are not in the field should not know that nothing has happened. Yes. I'm sorry, but just it is there. We are on the trajectory. Are we there to our desired trajectory? No. I agree on that. So just wanted to put that out. But coming back, in a way, I think it would be what has happened if I just go back to his thing. But is that what for the reason that in the RT-PCR, why was it 5,000 rupees if anybody knows? I'm going to give answers because time is not answered.
You'll have to go very quick.
Yeah.
You got
Reason
1 minute.
It was 5,000 rupees because we were getting it from Thermo, we were getting from Abbott. We didn't have the ecosystem to build our own new infectious disease diagnostic kits. That's why you had to get a prescription, because it was not that, because Abbott was not actually giving the flights enough to get it. We were pleading to Abbott, we were pleading to Thermo, please give enough RT-PCR kits. That's why you had to get a prescription to get even tested, because India as a country didn't have enough. At that time, a phenomenal foundation came, and I have to mention them because they were great, Rockefeller Foundation, and gave a larger nationwide grant which was landed at CCAM, and we ran a larger program with almost 200 companies to build that capacity in India. Because of the local capacity, our indigenous supply of reagents and the kits became, and that brought the prices down, as well as accessibility. We still have capacity for 10 million RT-PCR manufacturing per day. Now, important thing, what he's saying is that, of course, because the scale of RT-PCR required, the machine, not the kit, those are now too many that we don't need. So it's like if you have too many mosquitoes, you got too many the plugs. Now you don't have mosquitoes, you don't use it. That is the situation right now. But during those days, we had to do that. So that is, I would say, the only component to it. But was just a good outcome out of it. I wanted to say that this happened in significant collaboration with Path as well as Social Alpha, where we did a lot of work together. So I think, in a way, we can do better. We have gone wrong many ways. But one of the way is to be, of course, accept it, but then go into analytical kind of thing, identify problems and come back to it.
So since you're going positive, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to highlight, and which we miss in all the glorification of innovation, is that how much money it takes, how many people were involved, right? So this whole mindset that we will give 10-15 lakh rupee each to college students and then they will change the innovation. This whole concept of frugal and all that, in deep science and technology, it doesn't work. It's expensive. The machines that Taslim has in CK, these are all very expensive machines, right? And this, what are these consumables? That they're not cheap. So we have great talent, but we have to match the talent with the infrastructure, consumables, and money. And it should not be only dilutive money. I'll give you one example. I have a 1.5 Tesla MRI machine that we have built in India, starting in 2016. Okay, this is 2025. We are doing our first commercial installation. We got CDSCO approval last year, and about $15 million have gone since 2016 till today in this, and it can still fail. Right? We are doing our first commercial installation post CDSCO approval, and a GE or a Siemens or a Philips. If you have contacts, you can ask them. A project of this size in their companies would have costed $200 million over 10 years, right? So these are expensive. You need talent, you need money, you need infrastructure, you need ecosystem of people. It all costs a lot of money, right? So MedTech innovation is not like writing 10 lines of code and putting it on the app store. That's
Okay, Anusha and Dr. Nandakumar, we will not go for your second question. So we have some time for audience questions, and I can see a hand up. You want to use this? But just be very brief. Huh?
Yes.
Unless you don't want tea, then we're okay to stay.
Don't worry. So I work in an innovation lab housed under a big NGO. So my question is from a tangential thing that you guys said, but I want to talk about the impact labs. And you said that this didn't work because the space given was in a corner and no one wanted to.
Was that the reason?
Right.
Go ahead.
What I wanted to. Okay. So ignoring the story, the question is that a lot of times when we want to prototype innovations, we want to start small in a low fidelity way so that we can test it. But for health tech innovations or health innovations in a lot of cases, it's harder to do this. Like, how do I set up a new kind of medical service without setting up the service?
So
how would you prototype?
Yeah, so this is the gentleman who has all the machines in his office or in his whatever.
So,
and you can go to CCAM.
no, and how many bionet incubators are
Yes. So there are as I
Don't list your machines, just tell him what all you
both
have.
of them have said there are many setups in across India, as Manoj also said, who have different setups based on your needs. Be it you want molding, you want microfluidics, maybe microfabrication. There are capabilities across. You don't need to build yourselves. There are easy and there are experts who can help you on that. Just a quick answer.
So yeah, Taslim has a lovely place in Bangalore. So just reach out to him, and you don't charge for it, right?
No, not at all.
There you go. What else do you want, man?
The quick answer should be the hint.
Good. Yeah.
So I have a question to Anusha about the public procurement system. So like I want to understand, so if your product comes under a new innovative product, and then during the bidding system, they will have certain specifications. So when you don't have a competitor or in the same space, how do you work around it?
Anusha, why don't you just take this? I don't need to say anything.
So in the first phase, we actually do this through pilots, right? That time, the funding comes from an external party, and then you kind of fund that. And then you're right, there is no PIP code initially, if it's a completely new technology. And at that point in time, usually what happens is there are KOLs within the government system who recommend. And then, there is a policy advocacy process that happens at the state government level, and then it's included. So, for example, in Kerala, it's part of the Nayanamritam program that was created as a result of the success of the pilot. So, the pilot was funded by NHS.
Anusha did say that she failed. So, you want to take that with a pinch of salt. Yeah. Failing towards success, let's call it that. So currently there's a program that is there, and then there is a code associated with the PIP. Whereas for other governments, then there's a policy advocacy process. So it's it takes anywhere between 1 year to 3 years to get to a place where you can actually include it as part of routine tendering.
Yeah, hi. I have a question. A lot of the problems that were mentioned or issues that were mentioned in this session are what I would call innovation 101. Right? Anybody who actually studies innovation knows these. So my question is the following. Where are we failing in terms of not providing these perspective to either entrepreneurs or incubation managers and all of that? Because the reality is questions such as you can't create a product until you actually know who the customer is going to be, or you got to go for niche markets in early stages before you can scale up. Or Manoj, as you said, that each technology has its own journey that has to be curated in its own way because the nature of the product is different and the nature of the customers is different. And so I guess my question is that, is there a need for some exposure to wannabe entrepreneur? We have courses on entrepreneurship that try to teach people how to be entrepreneurs. And I don't even know what that means. But I think the question of, would it be valuable for wannabe entrepreneurs or wannabe incubator managers to actually get some exposure to what innovation journeys look like, what we understand from theories of innovation, from the innovation literature and all of that, so that actually these kind of things that you're talking about are avoided as much as possible. Manoj, your point about the capital is a separate one. I think that's a separate story. But I think I'm just going to try to figure out how we as academics can add value to this broader ecosystem.
You are the best people to add value to this because see, where is India's R&D expenditure happening? It is happening by government and it is happening in academic institutions. And where are our government policy, program design, good or bad, whatever it is, where is that money going? It is going to the incubators attached to the academic institutions, right? That is where this was supposed to happen. Unfortunately, whether I should say this publicly or not, most of these incubators are run by non-entrepreneurs who have never shipped anything. And they manage these startups in a very, very non-entrepreneurial way. So it has to happen in in academic institutions and their associated incubators, because that is where origination is happening. Origination doesn't happen in market.
Manoj, for the benefit of the group, can you just introduce the...
Oh, Professor Ambuj Sagar is Deputy Director of IIT, but more importantly, he is an innovation expert and also head of public policy school in IIT Delhi, which he built from scratch and works on the intersection of science, technology, innovation, and public policy. So, great question, Ambuj. Thank you. But you know what? This has to start in FITT, CCAM. Yeah. We have two incubators in this room, one in NCBS campus, one in IIT under your umbrella. If that is the origination, this education has to happen there, not in market after they work with us on the deployment and other things, right? And you know what? It is not about one institution. The way government policies are designed, they are designed in a very distributive manner. So if Taslim gets a grant for early stage innovation, there is no guarantee that he will get another grant for the startups who have moved from say TRL 2 to TRL 3. He has to again find money for that. So we don't create this consolidated pool of capital that he can manage with full independence.
So I have one question for all, for the incubators or for the one who supports them in the funding aspect or for the deployment aspect. Do you guys think that is there any gap between where there is a on field, what is a real problem? Do you capture that, or is there a gap between on ground problem and the innovation?
So if you don't work with the actual end user, implementer, and customer, which can be all different people, you will end up building something that nobody wants to use. There is a saying by Edison, who was not a great example to quote, but he said that I will never build something that nobody wants to use or buy, right?
Do you think that current, is this the same trend is happening where a lot of it is getting...
All successful entrepreneurs actually know their customer before they start their innovation journey. They don't search for customer after building the product.
But in MedTech, we have seen certain innovations or certain products that have also failed because it was not relating to the field
Exactly.
problem.
Yeah.
And also there's some example, I don't know if I can quote, because all of us have worked with BlackRock Technologies. This is a great innovation again for a vaccine carrier as a portable vaccine carrier. But somewhere a lot of on-road problems which we also see that it's too heavy for the
No. It's the listen. Black Frog is the only product in its category in the market, right? I have 300 Black Frog units in a place in Guwahati, which is not going to the field because ICMR has not yet approved something that they have to approve for 3 years. What I am trying to say, Black Frog is a product like which phone you use? iPhone. So which version is this? 16. Black Frog is 1.0. Right? So in its category leader like iPhone 1.0 was category leader in the category. Today we are in 16 after so many years. Microsoft is still shipping Office software after 30 years. So Black Frog, because it's a category leader, it has to, again, it runs out of money every quarter.
Go for the next question.
Yeah.
Given that
Others also get it up.
I'm sorry. I thought Ambu's question was to me.
so given that we've been during our field visits in some of the tribal hamlets, we've seen that sickle cell anemia is a pretty much actual relevant problem in the indigenous tribe. And when we see what's happening on the program side is the sickle cell elimination mission. But then what happens actually on the ground is basically just a rapid sickle cell test, and that too only after maybe some electrophoresis when the woman is pregnant. So I'm actually wondering why aren't we innovating towards genetic screening, because it's been eliminated in so many of our developed countries, and why is genetic screening still so expensive? Where are the low cost solutions for genetic screening for sickle cell anemia?
Genetic screening for
So in a way, I think, just to give you a perspective, I think spot on for all rare diseases, including sickle cell disease. I think, we all know about the invasive prenatal screening. I think for many diseases now, people are relying on the non-invasive, where you actually able to detect in the maternal blood the fetal component, which you can detect. Few companies have began to address it. Again, the market is the driver here, including Strand and many others actually have now the maternal blood based, and that's something we have to work on. But this could be, again, if I may just not have those positive view, this could be done in a mission driven thing. This is what you need. You need 2 years, 100 crores. Let's build that up. Let's have enough cohort. Let's get it, test it out. Let's do everything. But nobody's putting 100 crores for every problem. They are putting 1,000 crores for all the problems altogether. And that's not how you solve problems. It has to be in mission mode. That's a very important component.
One thing we need today in the field is a very simple thing. Doctor would agree with me. We need a non-invasive hemoglobin monitoring system that an ASHA worker can use for measuring the iron level. We don't have. We have money. We have money to invest. We don't have a single innovator who has a solution, and I don't think it's impossible.
So my question I'm deriving from what Anusha was also talking about. This is something we see as well. I work at an innovation studio where acceptance usage is a key barrier. So when you're talking at integration and adoption at large, even when you're talking at scale, every state context is different. So how do you really account for that when you're building, and how do you really build towards integration and adoption?
Is that directed? Okay. Yeah, sure.
So actually, Path is kind of doing a lot of work on that in that space, integration and adoption. So, basically, you need to go through the clinical trials, clinical approvals. You get all your, get all your approvals, and then you go for operational trials, and then it goes into the BIP, as Anusha was explaining. So, if you have such products, just reach out to us.
So more question was even at a systemic level, where integration and adoption, when we are talking in the system as well.
In the public health system.
Yeah, a public health system, or generally even when we're looking at a public healthcare center, where acceptance by nurses was an issue, right? So there's a lot of capacity building, or even understanding what their enablers, motivators are.
Absolutely.
So how do you go down to that nitty-gritties?
You have to go into human-centered design, not only of the product, but also of the program. So that's what we do, and we'd be happy to continue the conversation. I'm just trying to, if you still want tea. Any other questions, anybody? We are happy to stay. All done? Well, fantastic. What a great panel, and what a great audience. Thank you so much for being here. I won't even try to sum up. I think we've had a pretty vibrant discussion. We are all heading to the tea. There are 5 fantastic people who are also going to have tea, so please catch them, talk to them, and learn from their successes and their failures. Thanks a lot. Sorry?
6, not 5.
What? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Me too. Sorry. Thanks. Thanks.
Let's clap for our moderator and our speakers.